Welcome to our lesson on solid element operations. Solid element operations allow us to create complex shapes using Boolean operations, including subtraction, addition, and intersection. The result is associative. If you modify the location or the attributes of the elements that participate in the operation, the linked elements will be updated accordingly. Solid operations can be performed on elements in any model window by choosing Design Solid Element Operations. Now, solid element operations help us when we find ourselves in a position in ARCHICAD where we need a shape or an object or something that's just not available to us in the current libraries. Through the use of solid element operations, we can create unusual shapes and objects, and we're going to focus on how this works and some typical applications in this lesson. So let's get started. What I've done here is I've created a couple of objects that we're going to use to demonstrate the different solid element operations that are available to us. We'll take a look at this in the 3D window. And basically we have a structure that I've created out of a slab. As you can see, that's a typical slab. And here we have an object that we found in our library under Special Construction, Basic Shapes. And these are basic shapes that we can use to help us create objects and use in our different Boolean operations. In this case, we've picked an ellipsoid and we've inserted that into our slab. So let's take a look at how working with the different solid element operations affect or can affect the shape of this slab. So the way this works, we have a menu that comes up that says Edit Targets and Operators. So we have target elements and operator elements. In this case, our slab is going to be the target element and our object is going to be the operator element. In other words, the operator element is going to affect the target element. We have several operations to choose from. The first is subtraction. That means that the intersection of the operator element will be subtracted from the target element. Then we have subtraction with upwards extrusion. So again, it will be subtracted, but everything in an upwards direction will also be subtracted. Subtraction with a downwards extrusion means everything here will be subtracted and everything below the intersection will also be subtracted. And then we have intersection and addition, which we'll cover a little further along. So in order to affect a solid element operation, first thing we'll do is we'll select our target element. Then we come up here and we click on Get Target Element. Then we select our operator element and then select Get Operator Element. Now you can see here we've got one target element stored and we've got one operator element stored. And the type of operation that we've got selected is subtraction. We also have a choice to inherit the attributes of the operator or use their own attributes, and we'll show the difference between those two. So once we've made our selections, we can select Execute. Now if we go into Windows, Palettes, bring up our quick layers. If we take this layer and turn it off, alright, you'll notice that this object is on the ARCHICAD layer. And we want to put that on the Special Element Operator layer, which is a wireframe layer. Now you can see that's a wireframe. And if we turn that layer off, you'll see how the intersection of that ellipsoid shape has been subtracted from our slab. So this has many applications, for instance, making a shower recess in a slab. Let's undo that, and we're going to cancel all targets, all operators, and go back into getting our target element, getting our operator element, and this time we'll inherit the attributes of the you'll notice the last time that we subtracted from the slab, the finish on the inside of the subtracted area is the same as the slab, but now we're going to inherit the attributes. So we'll select execute, put this back on the correct layer. Now we've selected, but we've inherited the finish of the operator element, so we'll undo that and we'll go back to square one. Alright, this time we'll do a subtraction with an upward extrusion, so we'll select our slab and hit get target element. We have one target element stored. Now we'll get our operator element. We have that stored. And subtraction with upwards extrusion. We'll execute. And we'll take a look at that. And now you'll see that we've subtracted everything from the slab that intersects and everything within an upwards extrusion. We'll undo that. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing with a downwards extrusion. We'll get our target element and our operator element. We'll go back to using our own attributes. Click execute. And you can see how that works in creating what might be considered a niche in the wall with a downward extrusion. We'll undo that. This time we'll work with the intersection. We've got our target element and our operator element. Execute. And now we've created an object out of the intersection of the slab and our ellipsoid. We'll undo that. Now we have one more thing we can do, which is the addition. We'll select our slab as the target element. And we'll get our operator element. We've got addition. Execute. And now you can see how we've added to our slab with the ellipsoid. So those are the basic 5 functions with our solid element operations, and using a combination of these we can create just about, or we can create any object or anything that we may need and can't easily find in ARCHICAD. Subtraction with upwards extrusion, downward extrusion, intersection, and addition. So let's take a look at some of the practical things that we can do as we're working through our projects in ARCHICAD. We'll go back to our floor plan. Alright, we're back on our floor plan. I've got this area highlighted here with the marquee, and we'll show that in the 3D window. And what we have here is a wall. Five feet high and a foot thick. Made out of concrete. And our finish is limestone. We also have some 3D text, and if we go into object selection settings, 3D text, that's found under Division 10 Specialties under Signage and ARCHICAD object that we can work with. Over here we've typed in 2D CAD, and we have some other parameters for adjusting that text, font, size, etc. Okay, and we've placed that on the slab and had it partially recessed into the slab. But what I want to do is I want to model something here on the top. So I'm going to go into section 1. And I'm going to go into arc circle. I'm going to say start here. Then we're going to bring a line out here 2 inches. And same thing here. Now we'll go up here and we'll select offset. Bring up our magic wand. Make that 2 inches. I'll tie that in down there. Grab all this. Move it out of the way for now. Okay, now we're going to select that and we're going to go to copy. Go back to our first floor and do a paste. Now we'll go to our slab tool. Now we've got a slab. Now we'll go into our show selection marquee and bring that up in the 3D window. And what we're going to do here is we're going to turn this into an object. This is where it helps to have our 3D visualization palette on board. So let's take that and just dock it here. Here we go into 3D projection settings. And we select top view. And OK. That's not quite what we want. We have to bring our camera up here. Now we go back in. Select our side view. Now we're looking at it from the top down. And we go into File, Libraries and Objects, Save 3D Model As. And normally you'll save this into your project folder, but we're going to put this on the desktop for right now. And we'll name it ABC. Save. We'll save that as an object and editable GDL script in case we want to try and make some changes to it. Click Save, go back to our floor plan, open up to Object, and now you can see the ABC object that we've created in the preview window. We'll select OK. And now we'll place that object. And we'll center this over our wall. We can go back into our section view and raise this to the desired height. We can eliminate our lines. Now we can go into Design, Solid Element Operations. We can select the wall and call that the target element. And we can select the object we created and call that the operator element. And we'll subtract with an upwards extrusion and click Execute. Now you'll notice that when we're working with solid element operations, if I were to take this and move it up, we'll rebuild ourselves. So the wall automatically adjusts anytime we move that element. Now with that completed, we can go back to the first floor plan. We have some additional text here I'll move into place. I'll select the wall. And we'll call that the target element. And I'll select these texts and call those the operator elements. I have two pieces of text and the wall selected. And this time we just want to do subtraction because we want to carve the text into the lime rock wall. So we'll do subtraction. We'll click Execute. We can delete all that. We'll put a marquee around this and go to just one more thing we want to do. We want to select our solid element operation layer for the text and hide that. Now with a marquee around it, we can go into Show Selection Marquee in 3D. Fit it to the window. And we'll take a look at that. One thing we might want to do is turn that into limestone rough. And now we have a nice little tombstone for our 2D CAD.